India has chosen not to join a mega trade pact involving 15 other countries called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. It involves ASEAN's 10 member states, along with China, India, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. Now combined, they contribute to 1/3 of the world's GDP, and they have said they are ready to sign the deal next year. What does this move mean for India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Now, the Straits Times US Bureau Chief Nirmal Ghosh spoke to our foreign correspondents to find out more on his show, Asian Insider. And here are the key highlights.
So, Ravi, perhaps we should start with you. What was India's rationale? And from India's point of view, there's been a mixed reaction in India. There's been a lot of praise, actually, for India's decision. Has it been the right decision? What are the dynamics?
Well, it's not for me to judge whether it's the right decision for India. But clearly within India, there's been significant rethink about the merits of certain FTAs. And it goes back to the last 2 or 3 years when after Mr. Modi took power, there was a rethink about the trade deals done by the Manmohan Singh government. You know, they were accelerated during Manmohan Singh's government, including the one with Singapore, which we call SICA, which is the biggest trade deal that India has ever done. Now, there used to be something called the Planning Commission of India, and its successor is called Niti Aayog. Now, Niti Aayog has done studies which show that the FTAs have not really worked for India. And overall, there's been a relook at the merits of these FTAs. I think Mr. Modi sort of leaned towards the inevitable, given that his own economy has not been performing too well lately. Growth has been, it's been last 5-6 quarters have been really dismal. I think he just took all these into consideration and decided to get out of this.
Economic and political realities and also opposition from within.
Yes.
Right. So, Vikram, what are the upsides and the downsides now of India not being part of this enormous trade pact?
Well, the upsides are, first of all, it is able to stave off competition from lower cost imports, right? And there's a whole lot of industries that it wants to protect. For example, in the farm sector, there's the dairy industry, which is strong actually in Mr. Modi's home state of Gujarat. Okay, there's that. Then there's textiles, and there's a whole range of other manufacturing industries, from which India would have a tough time competing vis-a-vis China and some ASEAN countries. So it gets to stave off this competition. Then it has more freedom of action to raise tariffs if it wants to, which it would not be able to do if it signed on to RCEP. So that's another upside. Then it avoids having to implement the tough reforms to get its manufacturing sector up to speed. Right? These tough reforms are things like labor reforms, land reforms, and so on. Now, those are very difficult reforms, and if it did sign on to RCEP, it would have had to go ahead and push on those reforms.
Well, just to wrap up and pick up from where Vikram left off, as he said, there are many significant economies in this region that want India into RCEP, the Japanese being a very important one. And I'm sure they'll continue to keep trying. But I also want to make one last point, which is that Mr. Modi also met with the ASEAN leaders in Bangkok. And while he was categorical about RCEP, he actually spoke about an upgraded ASEAN-India FTA. So it's not like India is completely pulling out of all free trade agreements, but it is being very picky on where it wants to go. And it is going to decide a whole lot of things based on its interests and where it sees its friends and allies and where it sees people not being sympathetic to its own concerns.
Excellent point. Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you very much, Vikram, for making time. Much appreciated. Right. So in this new and fluid environment, everything is up for negotiation and renegotiation. Until just about 3 years ago, the TPP seemed on track. It still is, but minus the United States. And until a few days ago, literally, the RCEP seemed to be on track. It still is, but minus India. We shall have to watch what happens in this new and fluid environment. For Asian Insider, I'm Nirmal Ghosh.
To see the full video, visit our website at straitstimes.com.